Yes, everyone, switch on your videos. All right, so what is the last thing or the last hormone that we had discussed? I think, was it the pancreas? All right, so in the previous class, we had discussed about the pancreas as the pancreas being a mixed gland. We know that they can perform like an endocrine gland as well as they can perform like an exocrine gland. Now, when we are seeing the way this thing pancreas perform as an endocrine gland, we know that it secretes hormones such as insulin and glucagon. And when we talk about the exocrine function of the pancreas, we know that it works by the secretion of certain enzymes that help in the process of digestion. So that is what is done by the exocrine part of the pancreas. Now, both of it is extremely important, and it's not like at one time one of it will work and the other will not. Both of them have different functions and they work accordingly. So, after that, we know that because of the enzymes that are present in the mitochondria, constantly I'm saying mitochondria, in the pancreas. Pancreas and the enzyme that it secretes that helps for the digestion of proteins, fat molecules, and also carbohydrates, and that gets released into the small intestine part of our digestive system. And we had also discussed about how the undersecretion of the insulin from the pancreas can lead to a very serious disease called as diabetes mellitus, because during that case, the blood sugar, or you can say the sugar that is present in the blood or the glucose that is present in the blood, it will not get metabolized. It will not get broken down. So the amount of sugar that is in blood, that is going to rise a lot. Then we also discussed about the adrenal glands, wherein we talked about how they occur in pairs and they are present above each kidney and they decrease in size with the age. If you might remember that we also talked about how the hormone that is secreted by the adrenal gland, that is adrenaline, it helps us in the flight and fight responses, right? Whenever we get scared, whenever we get anxious, the hormone that is secreted in our body, that is adrenaline. And how does it work? It works by increasing the heartbeat. It supplies more and more oxygen to the body so that we can get enough energy to perform variety of functions. Then we saw the gonads. The gonads, that is the organs in the body of the male and the female that helps in the production of gametes. So that is their primary function. Now, apart from that, another function that the gonad has is to produce the male hormone and the female hormone respectively. When we talk about the testes, so it produces the male hormone, whereas the ovaries, it produces the female hormone. Now, the testosterone and the estrogen, what they do, like apart from giving all the male and the female characters to male and female, they also provide like the secondary sexual characters. They also help in the production of gametes. So we saw all of these things. Now, moving forward, talking about the next gland, you can say the thymus. See, the thymus, it is again an endocrine gland which is situated near the heart. And where is it present? So right in between the two lungs. Now, the hormones that are secreted by the thymus, they are known as thymosins. And thymosins are extremely important as far as the immunity of our body is concerned. They are very important for immunity purpose of our body. Now, what they do is that they help us to fight infections. Whenever there is any foreign particle entering in our body, they help us to fight those particles. And the last one, this is actually not given in your book, but I have written just so you people could understand the things that it does. The pineal gland. It is a very tiny, tiny, tiny gland, and that is located in the middle of the human brain. It's located right here. Okay, so it is this particular pineal gland. It secretes a hormone that is known as melatonin. Melatonin is that hormone that keeps us on a 24-hour cycle of our body. Meaning there is a time when we go to sleep, there is a time when we wake up, and that is all done because of the melatonin hormone. So that is what pineal gland. So with that being said, we have actually completed all of the endocrine glands. Now tell me, students, if you have any doubts anywhere. Hmm? No doubts?
Ma'am,
Ma'am,
Yes?
ma'am,
Yes?
ma'am,
Yes? Yes? Say.
ma'am, what are alpha cells and beta cells? You have written it, no?
Yes, alpha cells and beta cells are two different kinds of cells that are present inside the pancreas. Okay, there are like these are the names of the cells. So the alpha cells, they are responsible for secreting and synthesizing the insulin, whereas the beta cells, they are responsible for synthesizing and secreting the glucagon. These are the names of the cells. Okay.
So, ma'am, it will come in as like flavors.
Yeah, it's just alpha
Okay,
and beta. You can remember that. It's not a lot. It's just alpha cells,
okay,
beta cells. These are the names. No one will ask you what are the cells names and all. They'll only ask you about insulin and glucagon. Alpha and beta is not that significant, but still you people should know about it. Okay.
okay, ma'am. Thank
All right. Now those students that were taking down the notes, what is the last thing that you've written? Fezan?
Yes,
Yes. What is the last thing that you have noted down in your notebook?
teacher, I was absent in the last class, so I
You weren't. You were not absent. I asked you, like, don't you remember? We discussed whole thing about phobias, and you said you had a phobia of your father. So you were present in the previous
yeah,
class. So what is the last thing you've written? Hmm?
I did not write there.
You were not taking down the notes?
No,
Why?
because I came from India that day.
Who else was noting down? Is there anyone who had to note down the like take down the notes? No one else. Okay, Fazan, then you have to take down the notes. Or what else will you do? You have to take down the notes, right? You have not taken down any notes?
Teacher, I will watch the video and write it.
No, that's not how it's done, no? If I'm asking you to write down the notes, then you're supposed to do it in the class only, no? If I wanted to, why would this revision class go on? If you people could watch videos, then why would I come here to teach the chapter yet again to everyone? This is not done. Very rude behavior. Okay, you don't want to write down, I can't do anything about that. I'll just let the team know about it. Because this is not done because I was thinking constantly that you people were taking down the notes. Ibad was. He's absent today, I think so. But anyway, then I'll complete the chapter. So now we'll move on to the plant part. We had discussed everything related to the animals. Now we'll move on to the plant parts. So let us see how the coordination takes place in the case of plants. Just give me 1 second. All right. So discussing about the coordination and how it takes place in the case of plants. So we all know that plants, they do not have any particular kind of nervous system. They do not have an organ system, let alone. But plants do show certain kinds of movements to help us, or you can say to keep themselves updated, or you can say that is how their coordination happens. So plants, they show coordination with the help of certain movements. And when we talk about the movements, so there are two types of plant movements. The first one is the growth dependent movement, and the next is growth independent movements. Now, there is a difference in between them too. We'll discuss about that in details, but for now, you people understand that there are two types of plant movements: growth dependent and growth independent. Now, the plants, they use electrical or chemical means to convey the stimulus from one cell to another. So they don't have, you can say, a proper nervous system just like how we do. And since they don't have it, so they have a very different mechanism of how they, you can say, coordinate their information. Okay, they use electrical chemical methods. They use the electrical impulses. They have certain impulses or signal carrying in their body, because of which they can transport, or you can say transmit, information from one cell to another cell. Now, diving on into the growth independent movement topic, or you can also call it as the nastic movements. So now growth independent, meaning something that is not dependent on the growth. Or the other way to say or talk about the nastic, growth independent movement is to call it as the nastic movements. Now the movements not related to growth, that have no connection with the growth, or the, you can say, the direction from which the stimulus is being received. So those kind of, you can say, this thing, the movements that are shown by the plants, we call them as the growth independent movements, or we call them as the nastic movements. Now in the case of nastic movements, what happens? The stimulus, whenever it is provided to a plant, the plant shows a very quick response, but the only thing is that that particular response is not dependent on the direction of the stimulus. It's not dependent from where the stimulus is coming. Is it coming from the front or back? It doesn't depend on that. Rather, it is dependent on the stimulus, just the stimulus. The greatest example that we can give over here is the movement that is seen in the touch me not plant. See, the touch me not plant, whenever you touch it, what does it do? It curls its leaf. It starts closing its leaves towards the inner side, right? It is against the stimulus that is being provided to it. So that is a great, great example of nastic movement. And here touch is the response. So we'll call it as thigmonastic or thigmonasty, that is seen in the touch me not plant. Also, you people should remember that the scientific name or the biological name of touch me not plant is Mimosa pudica. Clear? Also, Ibad, what were you noting down in the previous class? What is the last thing you've written?
One second. Ma'am, about pancreas, I think.
Pancreas. Okay. So, why are you late today?
Ma'am, I just came home. I was traveling.
Okay. So, I have completed the part of the endocrine glands. So, you have completed pancreas, right?
Yes,
Okay. So, you need to note down from adrenal glands. So, once you're done, just tell me, okay? And
okay.
Faizan, you're supposed to take down the notes as well. Okay?
Okay.
Yes, students, you can switch off your video.
Yes, from the from the
Done?
Yes.
Done?
One second. Yes, ma'am. Done.
All right. Now coming back to the coordination in the case of plants. So as we were discussing, it is of two types, that is growth dependent and growth independent. So the first one that we are discussing is the growth independent kind, wherein we saw that the direction of the response in these cases is not dependent on from wherever the stimulus is coming from. It's not dependent on that. Rather, the movement that is seen by these plants, it can be seen from anywhere. So it doesn't actually necessarily depend on the stimulus or from where the stimulus is actually coming from. Now, the best example, like I told you, for this case is the touch me not plant, that is the scientifically known as Mimosa pubica. Now moving forward to the next type, that is the growth related movements, meaning these are the movements that will actually depend on the stimulus direction, meaning from where the stimulus is coming from. Now they are also known as the tropic movements. Now these movements, they occur in response to the environmental stimuli, and the direction of the response is dependent on the direction of the stimulus. It's not independent in this case. And just like how we call the growth independent movement as dynastic movements, now we'll call the dependent movements as the tropic movements. It's just the name that it has. The example over here that you can see is the pea plant, which is a climber. So it requires support to grow. So how does it, you can say, do the growth process? It actually, whenever you provide it with any fence or any kind of support, with the help of its tendrils, it will wrap around that particular support, and because of that wrapping around, it will get proper support for growth. So we can say that these tendrils, they are sensitive to touch, and the touch is like basically the, you can say, the fence or the support that you're providing to it, that becomes the stimulus for it. So now remember that the growth dependent or the growth related movements, they are directional movements, meaning you can have a positive direction of it as well as you can have a negative direction of it. It shows the movement in both the directions. Whenever the stimulus is applied and the you can say the response is towards the stimulus, we'll say that those kind of tropic movements are positive. Why? Because their response, it's towards the stimulus. And whenever the response is not towards the stimulus, rather away from it, then that is what we call as a negative tropic movement. Now, the tropic movements can either be towards the stimulus, we'll call it as positive, or away from the stimulus, so we'll call it as negative. And the phenomena, the whole entire thing, wherein any plant or any plant part shows the phenomena of tropic movement, then we call it as tropism. It is known as tropism. Now, the tropic movements, they are of variety of types, such as we have phototropism, where the stimulus is light. The word photon refers to light. Then there is geotropism, where the stimulus is the gravity. Then chemotropism, where the stimulus is the chemical. And hydrotropism, where the stimulus is water. Lastly, there is thigmotropism, where the stimulus is touch. So all of these are the variety of different types of tropic movements. Now then there will be certain examples, but first you note down till here, then we'll move forward. Done?
Yes.
Done? Done?
Yes.
Done?
Yes.
Okay, so students, do you have any doubts up until now? Am I audible to all?
Yes.
Any doubts up until now? Yes or no? Hello, am I audible?
Yes,
No,
ma'am.
ma'am.
I'm not audible?
Yes, ma'am. You're
No,
audible,
ma'am,
ma'am.
you're audible.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm audible. You don't have any doubts.
No,
Okay. All right. So we saw the different types of tropic movements. Now let us see few examples. So the first example of the tropic movement that we are going to discuss is the phototropism. Now we know here, if we are talking about phototropism, then the stimulus over here is the light, isn't it? Photon refers to the light. Now in this case, what happens? For example, if we talk about the growth of the stem, we know that the stem would grow towards the light and the roots would grow away from the light. So the stem in this case would be positively phototropic. Why? Because it is showing the movement towards the stimulus, meaning from where the stimulus is coming from, that is where the movement is seen. So that is positive phototropism. But if we talk about the roots, so they show negative phototropism. Now, why they show negative phototropism? It's because they grow away from the sunlight. That is why they show negative phototropism. Now, moving forward, there is geotropism. Now, see, geotropism here, gravity is the stimulus. Now, all of us know that the gravity is always acting downwards, right? So, if we talk in terms of the stem, so the stems, they always grow against the gravity, meaning above the ground. So, we can say that the stem, they have, you can say, negative geotropic. Right, they are negatively geotropic. But if we talk about the roots, now in this case, since the roots, they grow toward the stimulus, meaning towards the gravity. So we'll call the roots as the positive geotrops. Then there is chemotropism. So we know that in the case of reproduction of plants, there is a, you can say, transfer of pollen grains, which is the male gamete. Okay, so whenever it lands on the female part of the plant, so what it does is that a growth of the pollen tube takes place, and that is dependent on certain chemicals. So that is a great example of chemotropism. Now, lastly, if we were to compare the nastic movements and the tropic movements together, so ultimately we'll come on to this decision that the nastic movements, they are much faster if you compare them to the tropic movements. Now, why? Because we know that the nastic movements, they show the movement or they show the response very quickly. But as far as the tropic movements are concerned, they show rather slower movements. Now, how? We know that as soon as you touch the touch me not plant, you will see how it reacts, right? It starts folding itself quickly as soon as you touch it. But when we talk about the growth of the stem, the growth of the root, or the movement of sunflower towards the light, so that is rather slower. So always remember that the nastic movements, they are faster if you compare them to the tropic. Okay, students? Any doubts up until now? Yes or no?
No.
No doubts? All right. Okay, so we'll keep it till here only for today's class. And in the next class, we'll continue with the talk about the hormones of the plants. And then this chapter will be over. So we'll move on to the life processes revision. Okay?
Okay, ma'am.
All right.